The Intellectual Gentlemen's Club.
Welcome back to the Intellectual Gentlemen's Club. I'm Jason Abbott. Thanks for joining me once again, or welcome if this is your first time. Want to direct you over to our main hub. That's intellectualgentlemansclub.com. You can find our links to social media, all the feeds to the podcast subscriptions, all of our previous podcasts that we've done, a little bio on everybody who has graced the airways of the IGC. And we have a support tab there if you would like to go and donate through PayPal or use our affiliate links through Amazon, Onnit, and Audible.com. This week I talked with Josh Macin. He is a new blogger that started the Serenity Hour. You can find that at theserenityhour.wordpress.com. Talks about, in detail, about his experiences with anxiety and depression, starting at really a very young age. Some of his battles where he has faced the deep abyss a few times and came back and took desperate measures to help himself. So we've talked about psychedelics a few times on the podcast, obviously, if you've listened before. Ayahuasca plays a huge role in his recovery for his mind, I guess you would say. It's a real honest conversation, and when somebody sent over his first blog called Escaping the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, somebody gave it to me on social media. I think it might have been Nick Gabriel, one of our previous guests. So I read it, and it's a very lengthy, detailed article, and it's basically journaling his last 15 months where he went to the jungle and dealt with a lot of his issues, and it wasn't like an easy overnight experience. So I really encourage you guys to check out his blog at the Serenity Hour. It's also on Facebook. You can find him on Twitter at Josh_Macin. We'll get right into the conversation here. This was actually supposed to be just a brief introduction between me and Josh on Skype, but my recorder is always running in the background when I'm on Skype because that's how I roll with podcasting. And we actually hit it off really well. So we decided to release it as the actual podcast. He might be on eventually with somebody else. I'd love to talk with him again. I have a lot of same interests. I really hope you guys enjoy the conversation. The intro music is, as always, brought to you by Secrets. And we'll, if you stick around, you'll hear some new exit music from a different artist. Yo.
What's going on, brother? Here, let me change the angle here. Can you see me all right?
Yeah, I got you.
All right. I got this is a $80 computer that I'm using, so I wouldn't imagine the video is smooth.
Yeah, it's looking all right.
Yeah. Sweet.
How you doing down there, man?
I'm doing awesome, brother. I'm doing awesome.
Good to hear.
I'm in La Paz right now. I don't know if you can see the beautiful scenery.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm a little altitude. I have a little bit of altitude sickness, so I got to start chewing on some coca leaves.
How high are you there?
I don't even know. I know it's like the highest city in the world, though. Oh, yeah. No, I no longer smoke marijuana, actually.
All right.
Yeah.
How long have you been out of the jungle then? Just a few days or a week or what?
No, I've been out of the jungle for 2 weeks now. Almost 2 weeks. And it's a huge change, brother. It's
so you were in for how long?
I was in for 4 months, but I had gone to town about 2 days of each month. Yeah.
All in, right?
Yeah. Oh my dude. All.
So how many ceremonies for that 4 months would you say?
I did 21 ceremonies. 21 ceremonies in 4 months.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. You pretty much all but one were terrifying. Actually, all of them were. It really is all in. That's the best way to put it.
Have you been having any other experiences other than ayahuasca? Have you had any mushrooms or San Pedro or anything down there?
So
augmenting it?
No, but I'm going to be doing San Pedro in a couple weeks. I'm going to Cusco after La Paz. Well, first I'm going to Puno, and then I'll be going to Cusco, and it's huge in Cusco. You know, you can get it in like the deli,
Okay.
and I believe it's the same thing as like mescaline, and it's from cactus, you know.
Right.
And so yeah, I'm excited to try that. It's very much a fatherly spirit, whereas the ayahuasca is a motherly spirit. Yeah.
Cool. When are you planning on heading back to the States, if at all?
I'm coming back April 17th, but I don't know how long I will be staying there. I mean, in La Paz, like for instance, where I am now, you can get by if you want to on $20 a day, $15 a day with hotel, you know.
Wow.
So, and it's beautiful. It's very beautiful, and there's so much things to do around here. There's so much sacred sites and mountains, and the air is just so crisp and clean. Not like that Manhattan air that I was breathing for 2 years.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah.
The concrete jungle, right?
Yeah, man.
Are you staying at one specific place, or are you jumping around from different shamans, or how's that all going?
The 4 months was one particular place, and they pretty much the way it was organized was I would do one ceremony a week with any of one of the 5 shamans that are currently there doing the 12-day program.
Okay.
12-day program is 7 ceremonies in like 9 or 10 days. And, you know, that's a much higher turnover. People are coming in and out.
Yeah.
And so then I had my 12-day retreat, which was 7 ceremonies, and I had all 5 shamans all at once. So you get 5 Icaros as opposed to 1. It's way, way, way more intense.
I bet.
Yeah. But, yeah, and then I plan on eventually going to Pucallpa or somewhere else and doing some more work, or returning back to the center that I was at. But I'm going to take about 6 months off of ayahuasca and just integrate and really, because the thing is that when you're drinking ayahuasca every single week for 4 months and sometimes multiple times in a week, it's not that you become dependent on it, but you don't realize just how much you're able to do on your own without the ayahuasca, right?
Right.
And it's like, you know, when I spend some time, when I've been away from it for 2 weeks now, and I fasted a couple of days and still eating healthy and meditating, doing yoga every day. And in reality, even though the hustle and bustle of the city is really difficult to deal with, the energy is really difficult, I'm able to come back to my center. I'm able to like be at peace, and almost feel this really the same way I did in the jungle. I imagine for some people that fades over time, but I really just think it's a matter of diet and watching thoughts, you know?
I was talking to a couple guys. I was recording a podcast the other day. We were talking about the psychedelic experience and integrating that after the trip. And we were talking about what kind of window of opportunity that is. What do you think you had? From previous things that I've done, I think there's like a day, maybe 3 days. But the one time I took ayahuasca, it felt like there was like a week, like around about a week. There was like an afterglow and a window of stuff I had just been constantly thinking about since the trip, and trying to facilitate some type of change in my life to the direction I thought I should be moving then.
Yeah, man. I think, honestly, it's so crucial those first few days and weeks, because those patterns that are so deeply ingrained, for me, like this is really like personally for me, when I leave the work, or when I right now when I'm going out into the world, like these little patterns, these little things that add up, right? Like, oh, I'll just have this piece of I'll just have this coffee, or I'll just have this piece of garlic bread, or this piece of like chocolate, or this, and it's like all of these little things, they add up so much. And when you get out of being so strict with the diet, the first thing you want to do is like, oh, let's drink beer and let's have wine and let's indulge. Sure. But it's such an illusion, man. It's such an illusion. Like, the only way to do it, I guess, is really 2 ways. It's like there's a book I read called Way of the Peaceful Warrior. You ever read it?
No, who wrote it?
You absolutely need to read this book. It's by Dan Millman. It's an incredible book.
Who is it again? Sorry, man. Daniel.
Dan Millman, Millman. He's so this guy Socrates. He's like a spiritual guru. He's training this young athlete to become a spiritual enlightened being, and he has him doing exercising all day, fasting, dieting, vegetables, everything perfect. And one day he says, "All right, let's go and let's get drunk." And the kid's like, "Why? What are you talking about? Why would he get drunk?" He said, "Sometimes it's good to do that. But let me tell you something. You either stand, but you don't wobble. And that's the most important thing, man, for me. Like, I either go into that beer knowing that I'm drinking this beer and knowing that I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not going to have another one, and it's going to be good for me, and it's going to relax me. And that's it. But I don't drink it and be like, oh, should I do this? Should I not be doing this? So, yeah, man. And then the other facet is just like, the illusion of those indulgences. Like, for me, like, I can be like, oh, man.
A lot faster, right?
Yeah, so fast.
I've had
fast.
a lot of problems. When I drank ayahuasca, it was December 2013, so just over a year ago. And I noticed over that year me becoming less conscious of things I was doing. And I broke my leg in jiu-jitsu twice this year.
Shit. What was that, ankle lock or just freak accident?
No, it was just like a takedown went bad the first time, and it never really
was it
healed up.
hypo or hyper?
No, it was just a fibula, just cracked down by the ankle. And so I came back, everything was fine, and then I went to a tournament. I was training hard. Everything seemed to be okay. I was kind of popping too many Aleve, I think, to kind of hide the pain. But during the tournament, a takedown went bad, and I got wrapped up in his legs and I popped my MCL. So I've been down for 6 months. Finally, at the end of this month, I think I'm going to be coming back. But what I was getting to is having something like that happen and shake me out of my normal patterns of like healthiness. Like I was eating fucking salad every day. I was meditating, without fail every morning for at least 20 minutes. Simple things like that became almost impossible to do after, especially the second break with surgery. Like I couldn't get in any comfortable position. So I was like, I can't really meditate. I tried doing it laying down. It wasn't my thing. I couldn't be in a lotus position and whatnot. Tried to do it in chairs. It became frustrating. Also, my diet started getting a lot worse too. I was a strict vegetarian for a couple years, and then I went only on like ethical meats and grass-fed stuff and wild game, stuff like that. And I'm like, well, anything goes because I got to get protein in my body. So I kind of over the last year afterwards, it seemed like I kind of degraded back into typical Western society-ness, And I had been thinking about it for a while again, and the ayahuasca facilitator I took my journey with here, he sends out an email probably every quarter or something. He has like a gathering for a bunch of people. So I've been thinking about doing it again lately, but I struggle with a lot more than I normally had with depression and anxiety, which of course you're very familiar with.
Yes.
Yeah, but it hasn't.
Fortunately and unfortunately.
Yeah, it had never been really debilitating. Maybe a few days here or there, and I'd have to pop a Xanax, and it would kind of give me a life preserver for the day, and then it kind of gets better for a little while, and it never was super debilitating, but it got pretty bad this time where I felt very vulnerable. I didn't feel like I could do anything, and my body's failing. I'm even getting older. All these different thoughts are kind of coming together, kind of shaking me to the core. But how's your anxiety and depression been? I mean, is it fucking eviscerated?
So, well, it's really, this is probably the hardest question to put into words, because so my depression is virtually gone. And when I say that, the crippling sadness, my full body aching, I still get these thought patterns that come up, and the thought patterns will lead to a 10-minute feeling of low energy, and I know it's not because of the food I ate, or it's not because it's because I believe the thought, right? And I will get down in this low mood for a little bit, but it's happened so many times, and I've come out so many times that I know how to bring myself out of it. The anxiety thing is my view on it is very, very, very different than it used to be. I used to think that it was solely an internal structure of mine that was faulty, but I now am understanding that I'm so sensitive to energies. I'm so sensitive to other people, like in a room, on a street, eye gazes, just everything. I'm super sensitive, and of course, sensitivity is a strength and a weakness, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm realizing about my anxiety is it's very much activated by other people's energy, and it's very rare that I'm super anxious when I'm by myself. So what I'm really learning about myself is that I need to go into a quiet place and I need to stretch almost 4 to 5 times, maybe 6 times a day, especially when I'm in a city like this. And when I'm in nature, my anxiety is super low. And another thing is that I've been doing this since I left the ayahuasca center. I've been breathing every single day, all day, like as if it's my job, really. Just anytime I'm like not feeling light and clear and happy, and anytime I'm feeling this cognitive unrest, I'll sit there and I'll just start breathing. Because breathing,
mindful, right? Mindful breathing.
Just mindful breathing, and it literally within 30 seconds sometimes it takes me to like a way better place. So I can't say I no longer have depression or anxiety, but what I'm realizing is that they both come in when they need to show you that you're off balance and show you that you have things, some type of energy or you're holding on to something, right? So yeah, I guess that's my best answer. Yeah.
When you've been going through all the experiences, how is the purge for you? Like I purged pretty good on both ends, but after you go through this for a while, does that kind of slow down, or are you continually seeing that purge happen? I'm curious about that.
So it's strange. I see most people who were there for a long amount of time wouldn't purge, as long as they were keeping a clean diet. For me, I had a stretch of like, I think 10 ceremonies where I didn't purge, even though, well, okay, so this is the purge. Most people talk about ayahuasca purging, they're talking about throwing up. But
shit.
The reality, right, but even there's more. Yawning is a huge purge. Yawning.
Okay.
Yawning, yeah, like, I'm starting to understand a lot about yawning. When I tell you about these,
tell. I've always been curious about it.
Okay,
because there's weird stuff. Yeah.
There's so much going on into yawns. I mean, obviously we know they're contagious, and you look at somebody, and what the shamans say is that it's mal aire, right? Bad air, and the brain is connected to your airways. So if you're thinking bad thoughts, or if there's bad energy in the room and it's coming on, if you're feeling it. What I think is that there are yawns generally just from being tired, right? But there are also, for me, when I tell you I go in a quiet place and stretch and meditate for 4 to 6 times a day, every single time I yawn for the entire time, nonstop. In my ayahuasca ceremonies, I would yawn the whole ceremony. And it's kind of just like a clearing of a thought or a clearing of air, and it makes me feel so much better once the yawn is over. And so there's definitely something, I don't know the science behind it, I'm by no means an expert, but there's definitely something energetic with yawns. It's some type of energy or some type of thought that is not serving you or helping you, and the yawn kind of clears it. And I mean, it's definitely intertwined with being tired too, because being tired is also just a state of being, right? It's also just
an energy
a collection
level
of thoughts.
also, right? Like your brain level, you're changing from alpha to beta to delta to theta,
right?
Whenever,
right?
Whether you're asleep or awake, or we're altering our consciousness all day long without drugs, because our brain is a drug manufacturer, basically. So it's taking us in. We're all
just drug addicts, really.
That's right. Yeah.
Our coffee and our food and everything's a drug.
Even if we didn't take any external drugs like that, I mean, the foods that we eat create drugs on our brain, serotonin, dopamine, stuff like that.
Definitely.
Crazy shit.
Yeah. There's definitely something to yawns. I wish I was able to explain it better, but in my experience, it's super,
what do you think about the sharing
powerful.
of a yawn? What is that all about?
Figure out that I can't figure out.
But it's
I'm
damn
not sure.
true.
Oh, it's definitely contagious. Yeah. And I
Must be
find
an
when
empathy receptor. I think they
Yeah.
found out that people with more empathy tend to yawn more around other people.
that makes sense.
So maybe you're psychically picking up that they're dumping bad energy. You want to dump more for them or something.
Yeah.
Like when you're in a movie, and somebody's underwater, you're like, hold your breath, right? Maybe it's something amplified like that. Who knows?
We'll have to take this to the scientists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd you get hooked up with? You call out a lot of people, dude. Like Gabor Mate, obviously he's the addiction specialist and all that. Chris Ryan, Joe Rogan, Aubrey Marcus, a bunch of podcasters. So, when did you start listening to podcasts, and how'd that all get intertwined? Was that after jiu-jitsu?
It was after training jiu-jitsu, yeah. But I remember one of my jiu-jitsu friends, this was probably about 3 years ago, introduced me to Joe Rogan. Obviously, everyone starts with Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah.
And I just fucking fell in love. I mean, I was working in a cubicle and I was miserable all day, and I would just have my headphones in, listening to podcasts for 8 hours, and I would be, mindlessly doing my Excel work actually I was working at Microsoft at the time. And just like the way they spoke, what they spoke about, everything was just so stimulating for my soul and for this deep part of me that I wasn't living through. I was living through my conditioned brain. And then I listened to Aubrey Marcus on Joe Rogan, and this is when I first heard about ayahuasca. And,
me too.
Yeah?
Me too.
Yeah. And I was actually working with my dad in his window and glass replacement. He has a business. And it was exactly 1 year before my breakdown. And I was listening to the ayahuasca talk, and I just said, this is definitely interesting, but I can't do this. I'm scared shitless of this. I get paranoid from weed. It's not for me. And exactly 1 year later to the date, in that, maybe not, within a few days away from 1 year, I was at my dad's office again after getting laid off and had my first complete mental breakdown. Just not able to function, 5 different voices going on in my head.
That was the first time where you had any kind of issue like that, you're saying?
No, it was the first major break. I was at the first time.
You were always kind of depressed and anxious, but never a snap.
But I could never identify it as so.
Okay.
I was
just lethargic.
I would actually no man. Before anything started, you mean?
Yeah.
No, I was I was energized most of the time. And then I was my whole life I've been super energized, almost manic. And then I started dropping, and I was dropping slowly, so I couldn't really pick it up. I couldn't understand it or know what was going on or even really think about it. And then I started getting these mini panic attacks. The first one I ever got was actually in my apartment, and it was 4 seconds. It was just 4 seconds of basically being on an ayahuasca ceremony and coming back to my life, my reality, and being holy fuck, what just happened? Where did I just go? And from that point on, I just kept trying to avoid them. And I remember starting a job and just having these panic attacks in the bathroom. I would go into the stall and just fucking put my binaural beats on. You've heard of binaural beats, I imagine, right?
I was using them this week, actually.
Oh, they're my lifesaver for the past 2 years.
What? Speaking of that, sorry to sidetrack you, but
no. But
what do you usually listen to as far as binaural beats? What kind of patterns?
I have. So
what do you have luck with?
Don't
I'm trying to experience what
alpha or beta. I don't know which way. I just go based on feel, and there's 3 different. I have these tracks on my iPhone. Oh wait, that's an ad. I have these tracks on my iPhone, right, that I've saved to my phone, and there's 3 that I've been listening to basically nonstop for 2 years. One of them is, and I'll send you the links to them.
Cool.
One of them is on YouTube. You type in deep meditation music, and I don't know if it's only one wave or if it's only alpha or only beta, but it incorporates different sounds too. It's more advanced than just the binaural beat. And then I have this thing called Zen Music for balance. And then I have another thing on YouTube called Amazing Meditation, something, something, something. They all have millions of hits. And I use them all for different things. Like before bed, I use the Zen Music. I used to use this deep meditation. It's a 10-minute track. And I used to use this after, swimming and just doing a lot of exercise. And in those 10 minutes, I'm telling you, man, it would basically be like a hallucinogenic experience. Like no different. I would completely lose track of that I was Josh, and that's kind of the place that I always listened to and always wanted to, not necessarily chase, but just I knew that no matter how much pain I had, if I could do it without drugs, something big is going on in this universe,
That's been my thing, man. I've connected on a number of different levels during deep psychedelic experiences, and you say chase, but not it's not a good word for it. But I know what you're coming from. That's why I started with meditation, and then once I kind of launched into psychedelics a couple years after that, and then combined the two at a couple points, it's like super powerful. But how do you? Yeah. It's like so powerful. But how do you get that on a morning experience to kind of set your day and remind you that you're not this meat sack? This is not really something you need to give a fuck about right now. There's a lot more going on, so don't be concerned about the small shit. And that's basically what I'm trying to do every morning before I go to work and sit down and do my daily tasks, And I always try and find the best way to get me as deep as I can go, as fast as I can go. I don't know if that's the proper way to do it. I think probably Buddhists would tell you, just shut the fuck up and sit there, and I do that too. Like I tried to mix it up this morning and just go back to nothing, and it was a lot more difficult. I had been augmenting with some music and some binaural beats, like I said earlier, and it was kind of getting me a little bit deeper spots where I felt more comfortable and kind of shedding a little bit of that ego body, I guess.
Yeah, man. It's all about, for me, when I wake up, first thing in the morning is I have to put my binaural beats in and then start doing everything with presence, Like my whole life, I operated on this like, I'll worry about it another day, or one day I'll be rich and I won't have to worry about it. I'll buy another one, or I just operated on this like nothing matters now, not like everything. Like I don't need to make my bed. I'll do that shit later. It doesn't matter. And then what I'm realizing now is like when I wake up, put my binaural beats on, and then do my morning routine as if it's the most important part of my day, which really it is. Then it's like it becomes a meditation, because sitting and meditating can get really boring, and it just like for the ego just hates it, the mind hates it.
It attacks
so for me,
you.
Like, it does. It's like, what the fuck? Like, and I don't know if you check your Wi-Fi, your email or Facebook when you wake up, that's the worst fucking idea.
I gotta get out of that. I do that before I meditate. Like, why?
Yeah, man. It's the biggest life change for me. Like I did it when I first got into the jungle. I did it for 3 days in a row, and I was just so hyper those days. And now I will not check it until I do my morning routine, stretch, and meditate.
I'm gonna take that advice, man.
Do it, brother. Do it. And then don't eat or drink anything but water or tea while you're stretching and meditating.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to be giving you advice.
No,
really
please do.
Powerful for me. Yeah.
Please do, man. I'm always up for advice. Yeah. This is crazy, man. It's wild how this all hooked up. I think Nick tagged me on your article.
Oh, yeah?
How do you know Nick? Have you trained with him before?
No, I had just written his name on the thanking letter, and I had only listened to his podcast and checked out his website, and I think I knew a few mutual friends of his, and he ended up reaching out to me and said it was, the story really touched him, and man, that made me so happy because he's somebody that I've been listening to. I don't know how many podcasts he's been on, but I think I've listened to every single one,
Did you listen to him back with London Real or just the Journey one?
London Real, the Journey, yeah. And he's been a guest on a few different ones. And there's actually a podcast on the Journey by Vaz Srirahan.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've listened to that podcast like 16 times. Vaz really, he speaks from the heart, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest thing with this journey, is just moving from the mind to the heart. And you can just feel when someone speaks from the heart, you know? That's what, it wasn't even what he said that was resonated with me so well. It was just how he spoke, you know? And then the fact that he had 15 years of suicidal depression, I was just like, yeah, if he fucking made it, I can do this, you know?
I get so furious when I hear, like, this morning I was watching The Culture High, the Adam Scorgie flick, and it's his new one. But anyway, it deals with legalizing of marijuana, but the undertone of the whole movie is the war on drugs and what kind of damage it has caused, and you know, just avoiding at all costs acknowledging the medicinal and healthy benefits from whatever kind of drug anywhere. You know, the fact that MAPS runs into so many roadblocks trying to do psychedelic research with veterans. PTSD is a big fucking problem in the United States and globally, not just for soldiers, but for cops, people who have been raped, people with sexual abuse in the past. I think everybody's walking around with some kind of PTSD.
Absolutely.
And
everything is PTSD.
Yeah.
It's all trauma and pain. It's all an entity, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
sorry, continue though.
Yeah, and it takes on like this form inside people, and it, you know, it gets its hooks in us, and we go through life struggling against it, not knowing really what it is unless you really dive into something. And with psychedelics, what it's done for me, especially ayahuasca, brought up the most challenging issues immediately, and through that ceremony, I handled some shit that I thought I would never be able to handle. And stuff that I never even had thought about in 20 years, you know. But here, a year later, I feel much better about many of the issues that I kind of dealt with. So that stuff hasn't really faded, which I'm happy about. But the patterns is what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that was sidetracked, like I said, by my injury and things like that, where I wasn't able to keep those same patterns. But on the same token, being frustrated like that with not being able to keep the patterns, it made me think, like, what's going to happen when I'm, say, 80 and I can't use my body on a normal basis ever? You know, like, I'm not going to be able to train to work out my aggression, so how am I going to do that? You know, that's when I'm like, I have to get back to meditation. Meditation's something that I'll be able to do the rest of my life. You know, first and foremost, let's start there. Then you can incorporate the diet, work on that kind of stuff, and then get back to exercise when your body's ready. But it had this fear, like a perpetual fear, like, shit, I'm getting older. How am I going to deal with this in the future? Like, I know this is temporary and it sucks so bad now. How's it going to be when I don't have, you know, capacity over a lot of my body skills or whatever, you know?
I was in that same boat, man. I had a huge lesson in the jungle because for me, I'm understanding a lot about like exercise now, right? And it's not just that exercise is important at all costs, right? Like, that's the way I used to think. I'm starting to understand, like, when I first got to the jungle, I only had a super dirty pond to swim in, and I couldn't run because my knees were shot from jiu-jitsu and running, and jiu-jitsu and wrestling. And so all I can do is like calisthenics and yoga, right? I couldn't get that true cardio workout that I've been doing for 10 years. And I couldn't, and I had, before coming to the jungle, I was swimming every day. But every time I would swim in this pond, I would get an ear infection. So I had to, like, basically what happened is, without this immense amount of cardio and these endorphins running through my brain, is I got hit with more anxiety and more pain, right? And Western mind would be like, oh, this is bad, right? I need to exercise to be healthy. But actually what happened is, that pain was inside of me, right? That pain was in me, was part of me, was part of my multi-generational epigenetic sickness, all of my family, my grandparents, great-grandparents, all that pain being funneled into me, right? That pain was there, whether or not I was working out. And then because I had no option and no ability to do cardio and couldn't get that high, I was forced to dissolve that deeper pain. And then I found a pond, and a different pond, it was like a 20-minute walk away, and it was clean, and I ended up getting some earplugs delivered, and I started swimming. And I started swimming from like a super healthy place of like, I'm okay, I don't need this, but this feels so good for me. and I started doing that, and oh man, that was a huge
It's the
difference in my
gratitude
life.
behind it too, right? I mean,
What's that?
it's the gratitude behind it too, because you come to realize that
Exactly.
it's something you don't need. You've been able to rely. You haven't been had to rely on it, but now this is like a gift, right? And you look at it a little bit differently, and you appreciate it even more.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
what I'm hoping jiu-jitsu is going to be for me at the end of the month. It's like get back.
Dude, I'm with you, man. I
Yeah.
haven't trained in almost a year, man.
Yeah.
I'm fiending for it right now. I
Yeah,
can't
you're a
wait to
fucking
get back
champion.
to
I can't
train.
imagine that. When did you start training?
I started
How many years
training
ago?
in January of 2010
Okay.
at Yamasaki Academy. Fernando Yamasaki, fucking incredible, pardon my cursing, but incredible coach, incredible wise man. And yeah, man, he taught me. I trained super hard under him for 6 months, and then went to the Worlds that year, and didn't even know how to use gi because I had only wrestled and like I trained in the gi, but I never used it even when I trained in it.
You're a high school wrestler?
And, yeah, high school, and then I did some like preseason at University of Maryland, which was actually phenomenal and difficult, and like I think it was 2 months of like 3 times a week. That was
I'd never grappled
really
before,
powerful.
Ever. It was all new to me. I'd done Taekwondo,
Yeah,
but that's all stand up, obviously. So
yeah,
never
wrestlers
fucked
have
with
a big
judo or any
advantage.
grappling.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So what else is coming up down the road?
So I'll be in La Paz traveling around the sacred sites for a week. And then I'll be going to Puno on the other side of Lake Titicaca. And then I'm going to Cusco and Machu Picchu and going back into Peru. And I'll be spending a month there. And I've just been writing a ton. I have another post coming up, not as long as that first one. Yeah, it's about my inner child. I felt so in tune with my inner child during this 2 years of depression. Well, I shouldn't say in tune the first year and a half. I'm more just like a child. But now that I've done a ton of healing, I feel in tune with this child, and I'm writing about how I guess 2 different things. I'm writing about how city life can be so hard for like a fragile psyche, and just how much energy is around there, and how necessary it is to do the flow tanks and the meditations and everything. And I'm really understanding. Sorry to go off on a tangent. I tend to do this.
Please do.
But I realize now how my breakdown started when I was living in Manhattan, like without question, because I was in the Lower East Side, and it's not that I was less sensitive. It's just that I wasn't in tune with this sensitive part of me. I had to like beat down and nullify this sensitive child inside of me, and then like it's not free, right? I lost other things because of numbing that, and then my breakdown started because I just had this energy around me, and I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to clear it, and I just was being pulled in so many directions, So I just talk a lot about the city life, and then I also talk about this inner child of mine. And I feel like this inner child of mine is writing this like poem-like thing for parents in the world on how to raise children, because I just feel like this is one of the most important things for like global scale change. Really, just raising children, And I'm no expert. I don't want to. My whole piece is not to give advice to parents, because fuck, man, if one day I can take my own advice, I would be a very lucky man, because it's one thing, to know what to do, and it's another thing to execute it. But I just feel like there's so many little things that are just so fucked up with like parenting, and like I really believe that each child is. No, I know that each child is like a flower, like it has the potential of the universe inside of them, and has this like unbelievable potential, right? When we're young, like they say like when we are babies, we're this empty, beautiful vase, right? And like throughout our lives, people just throw shit in there, and conditioned thoughts, and the media, and parents, and school, and everything just throws it in there. And what ayahuasca does is it just pours clean water in there. So all the shit comes to the surface, right?
Bubbles over.
Cleans it out. Yeah, bubbles over.
Yeah. Bubbling is it's definitely a part of it.
Yeah. So yeah, man, just like basic things, just like unconditional love. This is the one thing that like it's so rare to see these days, but just unconditional love for your child. And that's like kind of writing about something along those lines, and just about like the thing about like telling kids when to eat, telling them they have to finish their plate, all of this stuff. Like our bodies tell us this, like. So yeah, and then after, I just really right now I'm super focused on writing. It's like it's the one thing for me that makes me. It's my new jujitsu. I can get into that satori state with writing.
I got you.
Yeah. And,
let me ask you, dude. Yeah. Like all the time they're spending down there, how are you making ends meet? I know you said it's like $20 a day, but it's still $20 a day.
Dude.
How does that all work?
I mean, so I when I caddied, I was so like cautious of all the money I was spending, and like thank you, Mom and my dad. They had helped me out, and when I was living with my mom, and she wasn't charging me rent, and I was caddying down the block, and she would buy me food and everything, and thank you so much, Mom. And so all the money I'd made when I was caddying, I was able to save, and so I paid for my retreat, and then basically I'm down to my last my last month and a half right now. So yeah, it's basically just money that I saved. Yeah, I haven't been working here. It's been an epic. Yeah. Oh, I can't really call it a vacation. This is the first time I've been relaxed since coming here. But yeah.
How does that work down there? You can just stay as long as you like in different countries when you're an American.
So
or is it different through different parts of the world?
In Peru, typically you can only get a 3-month visa unless you show them, or is it Visa? It's Visa. Visa is the credit card. Visa. And you can get 3 months, and if you work there, or if you can just convince them that you work there, you can get 6 months. So I got 3 months, stayed an extra month, had to pay $1 a day for that. And then in Bolivia, I now have 30 days. And then when I go back into Peru, I should be able to get another 3 months.
Oh,
it's
cool.
Really super easy, super cheap. I recommend anybody going through a quarter-life crisis, or like who just doesn't care about their job and doesn't have things that are holding them down, like just go to South America, just go.
Yeah, often you fantasize about having no responsibilities and being able to just jet set. And I listen to a lot of different podcasts, and people do what the fuck they want. They're not held down and stuff like that. And
yeah.
I enjoy my life. I don't regret anything that I've done, but you can't have everything, dude. You can't travel all the time and have a stable, loving family life and all that. So I get the adventure wherever I can, and just live vicariously through others sometimes.
and brother, when you go back to jiu-jitsu, that'll be your thing.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is a very powerful mechanism to to stay grounded,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what do you got going on the rest of the day?
Rest of the day, I'm going to do some shopping in these little markets. You can get things for so cheap, man. You get this like fruit and vegetables for you get enough food for the whole day for $5, the way I eat. And yeah, just I think I'm gonna finish this piece today, hopefully, a few days. And yeah, that's about it, man.
How's your family taking you being overseas all this time?
They definitely, I think they don't like it, and it hurts them. But I think deep down they know.
Sorry to cut you off. Do you think they look at you like an addict?
No, I think because they have read my work, and I've also just nonstop like lectured them before I left. Like, this is not a drug. Like I'm telling you. I think there's just a certain element of fear in all people from that generation, So it's I know that their conditioned part of them is fears for me, or thinks that I'm doing something crazy. But I know deep down, especially I know when I see them, that they'll have a different son, and then, I imagine they could be a different mother and a different father because, and I think maybe they can appreciate it or see that it was a necessary adventure for me, or call it an adventure. I mean, life or death healing. Yeah.
Where do you think you'd be if you didn't head overseas?
It's funny because I ask myself that question all the time. All the time. But the conundrum of it is that I now, after so many ceremonies and so much connection to the universe or to whatever is out there, I now see how it would have been impossible for me not to come. Like the synchronicities that happened for me to first find my friend Matt and then find my girlfriend, like obviously I could ask myself, well, what would have happened if I didn't find them? But I believe in this some element of like destiny now. I believe that there's like something that's carved out for us, but we have a huge amount of say in how that plays out. So I just think that like the universe knew how much pain I was in, and I guess just put these things in front of me, or maybe I did it myself subconsciously. So I mean, without ayahuasca, like if I could go back, without having said what I just said, and just going to a Western train of thought, I would say that I would probably, I think I'd be hooked on drugs or something. I don't know. I don't know how I could have. Either that, or I'll tell you another possibility is I could have just gone to like India and done like a fast until I like died, until I died or until I became
just like an ascetic
at peace. Well, I didn't know where I was going to go, but I was just, once I like started to really deeply understand what fasting was and how important it was, I was sort of considering just like going on a 40 or 50-day fast, like either until I got until I became like, until I felt good or until I died. Like I didn't know what else, like there's so much desperation, in my life, so much desperation for so long. So yeah.
What about fasting? What about that?
Oh man,
where did you learn about that first? The only experience I have with fasting is like a juice fast. I did that, a 10-day juice fast. I mean, it was.
Oh, that's super good.
It was awesome. I mean, I've wanted to do it again for a long time, but I haven't messed with it again. Where'd you get started with it?
So I'm definitely going to be doing my first juice fast in Cusco, by the way. I'll let you know how that is. But fasting for me, I first learned about it in a book called, I think it was a book called The Tao of Health, Sex, and Longevity. And I had first read it and I completely dismissed fasting. I completely dismissed most of the things in that book. Another amazing book, brother, The Tao of Health, Sex, and Longevity. When I first started experiencing really, really, really bad pain, I was eating a ton to overcompensate for it. And then when I first started getting into like healing remedies or really started to understand that what I was doing was just causing me more pain, I started to do like little fasts, and I couldn't do it anymore. And I couldn't do it for more than like 12 hours. But then I started really, really deeply reading about it and understanding about it, both from a conceptual and experiential level. Like one of the most important things for human beings. Like the body goes into the self-cleaning mechanism. It makes so much sense that we have our own inner doctor, right? It makes so much sense. And all of this, we're not meant as human beings to be constantly shoving food in our mouths the way I did with the types of foods, the combinations, and
processed bullshit.
Processed foods and the types of meat, all the antibiotics in the meat, and the amount of food that I ate. And so really what I understood from a conceptual level is like, yeah, it's going to get harder before it gets better. But anytime it got hard, I just couldn't go past that point, because you get to like a max toxicity state, right? Where when you start detoxing, it goes into your blood, your liver's cleaning your body and your blood, and you feel like absolute dog shit, But but yeah, so as you know, doing a juice fast is the same thing. But I got to send something to you. I had in the jungle. We were working on this podcast, this beautiful, amazing podcast. I have like 12 episodes, and um, one of the people we had on there was just this brilliant man from India who knew a ton about quantum physics and how it relates to spirituality, and also had been fasting his entire life. And he came to the ayahuasca center and he did like a 16-day fast while drinking ayahuasca. And he also had done a 3-month liquid fast. And in India, a common Ayurvedic practice is to drink honey and lemon water for like months. The glucose is enough to stimulate, to really fuel your brain, and so that your brain doesn't die, apparently, or parts of it, or it's not unhealthy. And then the lemon cleans your tract. And but yeah, so I think before, right after, no, it was right after having him on, I did a 6-day fast. And brother, it's just such a life-changing thing to take away all the stimulation, And I think fast should be done without internet too. And it's just like, it allows you to see the true, it's like Vipassana, man. It allows you to see the true nature of the insanity of your mind, and how often you go towards something, but we don't need it, Mm-hmm. And actually there was a woman who I met who was a breatharian, who hadn't eaten food for 7 years. And I would never have believed this. I had watched a documentary called In the Beginning There Was Light. And you're going to think I'm fucking insane.
Sun
and most
gazing?
people would think sun gazing. And this particular gentleman in the documentary had like a nectar in the roof of his mouth that he had been blessed with when he was 11 years old. And they did a 2-week study on him in a hospital, and they were measuring all of his levels, and they gave him a little thing of water to wash his face, and they measured the water before and after, and they had a monitor on his bladder, and every night his bladder would fill up, and throughout the night his bladder would empty. So he was reabsorbing this urine into his body. He wasn't eating, he wasn't drinking. And this is like one of the main guys who's brought this sun gazing or thing into the light. And there was a woman at the center who hadn't eaten food for 7 years, and she just glowed. And and she was there for 30 days and she didn't eat, So it's like, either she's lying about the 7-year thing, okay, but she still didn't eat for 30 days.
Right.
Yeah. So either way, it's pretty fucking impressive. Yeah, man. So fasting, I would say fasting is probably like one of the most important things, and it's super hard. I'm excited to get back into out of the city, because for me, my fasting is way easier when I'm outside of the city and I can just be by myself. But I would say it's one of the, for me, basically it's like fasting and ayahuasca, like hand in hand, as far as what has like been the most important for me to just, gain control over my mind, really.
Yeah, I followed the ayahuasca diet pretty strictly for 2 weeks up to my journey. I thought I didn't think I was going to purge like I did, man, because I didn't think I had anything really in me. But, a lot of people say that, that's more than just what you have for breakfast, And
oh, yeah,
I think
man,
there is
that's
something to
years.
say. I felt like, during a purge, man, I just felt like it's coming from the deep bowels, it's just releasing.
Definitely.
And it's like I said, man, I feel relieved about a lot of the things that I experienced. So I think there might be some truth to that. I don't know.
Do you think you're gonna have another ceremony anytime soon?
Yeah, I think it's only a matter of time. I think
that's awesome.
It called to me the first time. Aubrey Marcus, I heard it's probably the same exact podcast. That's where I heard about it the first time, and I remember the second time I heard him on, he was talking about Iboga and about the experience he had. I was running at the time. I was like right in the middle of one of my daily 5Ks when I was a runner, and he was describing seeing this gigantic blue being in the universe, and its heartbeat was like a big bang, and with each heartbeat there was the whole universe expansion and contraction was each heartbeat. So the universe depended on this being to run and keep his heartbeat running for constant big bangs to happen. And when I was thinking about that, it just took me to, every once in a while you have like this kind of epiphany, like there is some serious deep shit that you're not thinking about on a daily level, that all of a sudden you're like, something clicks. You're like, there's something so deep that you can't even conceptualize it. You can't even fathom how deep the universe is. And I guess that's a big problem that I have with religion in all of the books that, everybody says is the true book or whatnot. I think there's a lot of valuable lessons in these books. But for anybody to tell me that they have everything figured out, I just think is total arrogance. I just
100%.
You have to constantly question belief systems and whether they're a day old, that is something you believed yesterday, or something that was 3,000 years old. You need to, and shit, even the Buddha, the founder of Buddhism, right? He wasn't even a Buddhist. He says question yourselves, question me. That's the type of spirituality I'm interested in, is constantly questioning.
100%. Questioning, and let's experience it instead of telling me.
Mm-hmm.
And just like what you just mentioned, like Christopher Ryan, you ever listen to his podcast?
Yeah.
He's one of my favorites.
I've been trying to get him on for a while.
Have you?
Yeah. We've talked a couple times. He's just a busy guy.
Yeah, he's super busy. He says something like, and I think he got it from someone else, but it's like, admire those who are seeking the truth, but away from those who have claimed to found it.
Yep.
To have found it, right? And that's religion, right? Versus spirituality, because the essence of spirituality is that you never really get there, right? Like it's this thing, and you constantly dance with it, and then religion is like, here is what you have to do, otherwise you will be killed, or you will go to hell, or you will suffer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
spirituality is like water. You can't grab it. You can submerge yourself in it, but you can't take it with you. You can't just. It's not like you have a water bottle. You can just grab spirituality and just drink out of it whenever you want.
And but actually now I'm realizing how much religion has to offer if they took away that dogmatic side of it. Like religion. Oh man, like religion. I mean, I'm not really big into it, but they have some amazing ideas and some amazing understandings of life. And
the human condition.
Of being. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Where did you grow up? Religious person?
I'm Jewish, and I had a bar mitzvah, but and I guess I probably was into it for like a few weeks out of the entire time I had gone to temple for 8 years. I always respected it, but I just couldn't get into it. And for me, it's like, what I get into, I have no choice over the matter, It's like I couldn't decide to get into religion. I just like, okay, I don't like religion, I'm going to play Warcraft. But yeah, so there's definitely some principles we stood by, and then after my parents got divorced, it kind of just went out the window, as with a lot of families' divorces. But yeah.
How old were you when your parents got divorced?
13.
Oh shit,
13.
That's pretty young.
Yeah, 12 years ago. Yeah, I'm 25 now.
Yeah, I was. You're only 25.
Yeah.
Holy shit, man! You got a lot of experience under your belt for 25.
Yeah. Well, the pain was helpful for that.
Yeah,
right?
I guess.
Yeah.
Makes people grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the type of thing where when I started the podcast, I felt duped when I started to listen to Rogan that there wasn't conversations like this that people were having that you had access to. You had fucking the news. You had reality TV, and then you had like movies or something like that. You didn't have like a legit, what am I going to watch, like Dateline? It's still Mr. Reporter, and he's talking about what his script is saying. It's
yeah.
I didn't want that. When I started hearing podcasts and like real conversations and shit that I'd never fucking heard about before, and the amazingness behind a lot of it, it really infuriated me. that more people don't have access to listening to real shit. So when I was listening to London Real, Nick and Brian were talking about doing it yourself and all that. So I was looking on their website and I just fucking started doing it. I just kind of got the plan together. I'm like, I'm just going to talk to people. But I wanted to bring topics like this up, like we talked about, like 9/11 and lucid dreams. And very early on, we talked about ayahuasca. And, but I like talking to people that are headliners. Like I've had Carl Hart on, Dennis McKenna, some heavy hitters, and they have some amazing things to say. But I like talking to people like you and I, man. Like we're normal people. We're making our way through the world. We're not like we're not professionals making money off of something. It's like we're living life, and we have just as much life experience. Everybody's living their own, hero's journey.
And this is one of these concepts that I'm trying to like change, or paradigms really, like with recording my podcast with my friends. Like we're just dudes, we're dudes who have suffered, and we're dudes who have found the light. And when we record, like one of the things my whole life is I've always thought that you had to listen to somebody who's made it or who is headlining, right, in order to learn. But understanding, or what I'm hoping, is that people can gain just as much information from those who are still on the journey, or who are on the path, or who are struggling to get there, or who are maybe not even trying to get there. Just dudes,
Yeah.
Like just like you said, And I think that's like a concept that really I'm trying to change. Like everybody like reverse engineers things, like, oh, I should listen to this guy because he has money in this field. But maybe things are changing. Maybe things are newer now. Maybe whatever's coming up, if you can ride on the train while it's coming up, then you can become, so it's just...
Not only that, though, but once you've arrived at the top, a lot of times you have to take orders from other people, and you get a little corrupted, perhaps, just like politics or whatnot. So, maybe the way up is where all the knowledge is being birthed all the time, and that's where the gold is. So... Who knows? 'Cause I listen to I listen to a lot of independent podcasts, and I like them just as much as Rogan sometimes. Rogan, he has. It seems like after you do like 600 some episodes at 3 hours a piece, the dude's just he's learned by osmosis. Just by having conversations, and you can tell that he's a lot smarter than episode 200 or whatnot. So
Yeah, we're having an interest in listening to it.
That's what I wanted to ask you. What is your podcast?
Yeah.
You mentioned that a couple times.
So we have this podcast called Lost and Found Podcast. And it's three of us, and we recorded it from my iPhone in the jungle. And we had like 10 episodes with just us three, and we had like 3 or 4 episodes with a guest on it. Yeah, man, thank you so much for this. And hopefully we'll talk to you again soon, whenever.
Absolutely, man.
Whenever.
Okay, brother.
Thank you
Great
so
to
much,
see you
brother.
face to face.
I hope to one day meet you, man.
Yeah. When you get back to the States, or when I get to Peru.
Definitely. Whichever comes first.
All right, man.
All right, brother. I'll talk soon.
See you, Josh.
Okay.
Well, all right, guys. There you have it. That is Josh Macin and all of his brutal honesty laid out on the table. I really appreciate Josh for being on with me. It was a great conversation. Definitely a cool dude. Please check out his blog at The Serenity Hour, theserenityhour.wordpress.com. Check him out on Facebook, Josh_Macin. You can find him personally on Facebook also. The music that we have going out this week is Uppermost. The track is called The Core. Our intro music is always brought to you by Secrets. You can check both those artists out on SoundCloud, Uppermost on iTunes. Please feel free to check out our website, intellectualgentlemensclub.com. Stay tuned. We got another podcast on deck. Big Don Richard returns, and so does Daniele Bolelli. It's a great conversation. Appreciate all you guys listening out there. Until next time, hang loose, guys.
Never said I was a gentleman,
Actually,
motherfuckers.